Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you for joining Irvine International Academy Board meeting here on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024, 6 p.m. Location 4782 Karen Ann Lane, Irvine, California, 92604. I'd like to thank all board members, families, and the public that may be joining, our executive director. Thank you to all those participants. We would first like to take roll call. Located at 2903 Frontera Road, Del Rio, Texas, 78840. Doug Husen, are you present?
Yes, present.
Brett Freeman, myself, present. Miller Zhuang, located at number 123 Yingbing Avenue, Jingyu District, Chengdu, Sichuan, 61000, China. Are you present? He is not. Mr. David Sun? Present. Mr. Felipe Delgado?
Present.
Ms. Molly Chang?
Present.
Thank you all for joining. Next on the agenda, we would like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have any volunteers? Otherwise,
I will volunteer.
Mr. Delgado, please lead us.
Please stand. Take off your hat. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can see it. Okay, next item is the review, the discussion of the order of agenda. There has been a request to move item 2, which is a closed session item, to after item 7, which is the discussion action items. This is to save the time of those that are at the meeting here. Do we have any issues with that? If not, I'd like to make a motion to move item 2 to after item 7. We have a second from David. All in favor? Molly, please.
Yes.
I am a yay.
Yeah.
David's a yay.
Yes.
Felipe is a yay. Doug?
Aye.
We have unanimous ayes, so the agenda has been changed. Moving to the next item then, public comments, I believe is the next item. Any public comments at this point? I'd like to open it to the floor. Okay. Next item is related to information items. We have our executive director report with a special student presentation. Dr. Bean, we give you the floor.
All right, good evening, board members. Thanks for coming, and good evening, families. It's great to have you. Pretty excited about our executive director report tonight. We're going to start with a special presentation by our amazing students. Let me give you some quick background. I'm going to turn it over then to Felipe, who's been a big part of this particular program. So a lot of the programs we've instilled or implemented this year have been more school-wide competitions. So we had a very successful spelling bee a couple months ago, as we shared with you. And just recently, we had a very, very successful science fair. And so I'm not going to tell you about it because we had an amazing board member who was a part of that. So Felipe, I want to turn it over to you, how the science fair project came about, and to talk to us a little bit about the results.
Sure. I have to say, and I'm going to reach out to Molly here, I'm sure he's involved in many activities at the school, and there's a special few that create a lot of buzz and excitement, not only with the students, but the parents and the teachers, and it just takes over the school, right? I'm sure you've seen that, right? And there's activities like this here at IIA. And the most recent, of course, was the science fair. And I have to be honest here that when I first heard about it, it came down to me. My first thought was stay out of it. Okay, don't get involved. Let them do whatever they want. You're a busy man, and let it go. But when I saw when Raymond came home And he was very excited about that. And we had an opportunity to speak with Bentley and some of the other students, and then it just started to grow. And the teachers were just talking about it all the time, and the students, and of course, to me, the most amazing part was on the last day, they were literally breaking down, the parents are breaking down the door because they wanted to come in and see the exhibition that we had here. And for those of you who weren't here, the NPR room here was full of the exhibits from all the students. And that was just fantastic. I have to say that it's up there with the other big events we have, the Jogathon, which I think is a physical event, the Spelling Bee, academic, right? It's a huge academic event. And now the science fair, which to me is just an engineering event and intellectual event for the students. It teaches them more than just the science. It teaches them how to work as a team, how to plan, how to prepare their presentations, and most importantly, I think, to believe in their idea, whatever it is, believe what it is and present and follow all the way through. I have to have a special thanks to Mr. Gibbons and Ms. Kaminsky, both who were leading this effort from, right there the whole time. And of course, the parents for helping out, the students, it was just fantastic from start to finish. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Kaminsky so she can announce the kids here.
Hi, Mary Beth.
Hi, Miller.
Do they? Ooh,
um,
I can see the student.
Once we've concluded our judging and whatnot, we were extremely proud of all of our middle school students. But our middle school students that you see here today, the 4 groups will actually be going on to the county science fair, and that will be taking place, I believe, in March 6th is when they're holding their official judging. And then March 10th, they will have their award ceremony at Chapman University. So we couldn't just send 3. We actually had a tie in our middle school. So we had 4 projects and we had a tie for third place. But we wanted to highlight these students and then also give a special recognition to each of them and give them the opportunity to give kind of a shortened version of the same presentation that they did in their science class with Mr. Gibbons here today to the board, just to showcase how smart and intelligent and how extremely go-getting and, I'm so proud of these kids. I just don't know how to put it into words, but they have accomplished so much from November to now. They've had 3 months to do their scientific method and go through their entire experiment. And each experiment speaks for their own, and the judges knew that while they were judging. So I'm going to hand it off.
Before you do,
Yes.
we would encourage the board members to come close. So come down because the students are going to give us a special presentation about their projects. All right, come on down.
Can we grill them? Can we ask them?
Yeah, you can absolutely ask them a question.
Felipe, you can. We had approximately 11 judges judging the entirety of our science fair. And we had 6 judges here in middle school, 1 including to be Dr. Bean. So they did take their time. They did look at every single presentation and they looked if we had all the components of the scientific method. Was there a testable question? Was there a hypothesis? Did they show their procedures? Were they able to show what their variables were? And what was the conclusion? Did their hypothesis end up being correct? Did they end up finding a different outcome and now they have to redo their entire test because their hypothesis was incorrect? So they took a very long amount of time judging, and Mr. Gibbons and I did tabulate all the scores, and we have 4 fabulous projects that we're going to send off to county. So yes, Felipe, you're more than welcome to go ahead and grill not only your son who's up here, but all other middle school students. So I'm going to hand it off to Ellie and Katie. They will go ahead and describe their their project to the board.
Hello, my name is Ellie, and this is my friend Katie. Today we are presenting our science experiment, ice cream melting. Thank you, Ron Park. Our technical question is, how does the composition of ice cream affect how it melts in 70 degrees? Our hypothesis is, if I have different compositions of ice cream, then sorbet ice cream will melt the fastest compared to ice cream with dairy, because sorbet lacks dairy and fat. It also tends to melt faster on account of its high water content. Based on our research, ice cream melts slower than sorbet because of its high water content. Sorbet has such a high water content since it's just made of fruit puree, water, and sugar. The materials we used in our experiment are a 14-ounce container of Haagen-Dazs chocolate ice cream, a 14-ounce container of Haagen-Dazs strawberry ice cream, a 14-ounce container of Baskin-Robbins rainbow sherbet, a 16-ounce container of Talenti black raspberry chocolate chip, a 16-ounce container of Talenti dairy-free Alfonso mango sorbet, a camera, a thermometer, 6 bowls, and a 2-tablespoon ice cream scooper. Procedure. Step 1. Put 1 scoop of each ice cream in separate bowls along with 1/3 of the ice cream from the ice cream sandwich in a bowl. Place bowls in a 70-degree room. Step 2. Every 10 minutes, we take a photo and record the temperature of each ice cream. Step 3. Repeat the process and collect all the data. Put all the data on our board. So here are some of our photos throughout our experiment. We have the ice cream at 0 minutes, the ice cream at 10 minutes, 20, 30, and 40 minutes. Contrary to our hypothesis, mango sorbet melted the slowest, and strawberry ice cream melted the fastest. Even at 60 minutes, the mango sorbet wasn't fully melted. Here, we have a melting graph and a temperature graph. So it just shows how long the melting graph will show how long it took for the ice cream to melt, and the temperature graph shows temperature after 60 minutes. Here's our explanation. Why? Why was the hypothesis wrong? Why did mango sorbet take so long to melt? See, all the websites we read said that mango sorbet would melt the fastest. That is where our hypothesis was wrong. We dove deeper into mango sorbet and found out that it's mostly made of frozen fruit, and frozen fruit takes 30 to 60 minutes to fully defrost, which explains our results. While strawberry ice cream and chocolate ice cream take 15 to 30 minutes to melt due to its high dairy fat content, and the dairy fat lowers the freezing point, causing it to melt faster. Conclusion. When all the websites said that the mango sorbet would melt the fastest, we picked them wrong. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Katie and Ellie. Judges. Katie, Bill, Pat, any
I have a question. An easy question. Is there any ice cream left?
Is there some left? You know, okay, so we're gonna come over later.
Yes,
Have an
I
ice cream
guess,
party.
we're going
Okay,
over for
thank
ice
you.
cream.
That's
after
all.
work.
I have a question. Oh, David, go ahead.
So all the ice cream, the starting temperature is the same.
No, because it wouldn't allow for the starting temperature to be the same for some reason. We think it's because of the competition, but they were all around 15 to 19 degrees.
So there's a 4-degree difference. So why didn't you start with the same temperature? Because otherwise, starting point is different, right? You gotta start at the same temperature, then you can measure. That's number one question. Number two, when you measure the temperature, how do you measure? You stick a thermometer into the ice cream, into the middle of the ice cream. Okay. All right. What's your final conclusion with regard to the melting speed versus the content? What other conclusion you may have?
Okay, so the mango sorbet has frozen fruit in it, and frozen fruit takes 30 to 60 minutes to melt, which explains our results. And because most of the other ice creams have dairy in it, they melted faster because dairy fat lowers the freezing point, causing it to melt faster.
Okay, that's a very good observation. But I would also suggest the other things, like the sugar content. Have you thought about that? If the sugar affects tremendously, dairy products have a protein content. You only focus on protein content and water, but the sugar and other minerals have a great impact on that as well. So I suggest you follow up on the subject and maybe you can do a little more research for your next presentation.
Thank you so much.
That's an excellent work.
Okay, one more question. Why did you choose this topic, guys?
We like you and ice cream.
So now we're
Wait, let's do a big round of
Oh,
applause.
big round. Okay, so now we have temperature. Does temperature affect the burn rate of candles from Raymond and Bentley?
Miss Carissa,
Yes.
can I ask that they hold off until my wife gets here to do their presentation? Could you go to somebody else?
Okay, yes, we will skip.
Just because you're a board member.
Just because you're a board member. So we will continue, we will table that, that
Plus, I'd
point.
like to see them sweat a little bit.
So, now moving on to our second place, we have Arthur and Jada.
Hello, my name is Arthur.
And my name is Jada.
Our project is on the temperature and on how temperature affects light.
Before that, we need to explain.
For the longest time, scientists have debated whether light was a wave or particle. In 1704, Isaac Newton started particle theory by declaring that light couldn't be a wave because waves don't like to travel in straight lines.
About a century later. About a century.
There we go.
About a century later, a physicist named Thomas Young performed an experiment that proved light to be a wave.
He shined light through two slits and recorded what appeared on the wall behind the slits.
Thomas found that instead of two straight lines, a series of light and dark lines known as interference fringes formed on the wall.
The bright lines were a result of light interfering constructively.
And the dark lines were a result of light canceling itself out or interfering destructively with each other.
Since light acted like a wave and a particle, people believe that light is both a wave and a particle.
They combined both theories to make a concept note on how light works. So when an atom heats up, the electrons become excited. The electron travels to a higher orbital. They can't stay in that orbital for long, so they drop down to a lower orbital, releasing photons, which are light particles. The light particles travel out in forms of waves.
For our project, we used a spectrometer, a 550 lumen flashlight, a bowl of room temperature water, a bowl of cold water, a bowl of hot water, and a bowl of hot water. First, we set up the spectrometer. We filled up a bowl with some room temperature water and placed it in front of the slit. We shined the flashlight through the water and into the slit, and we recorded the results. We did this 5 times, and we also did this with the cold and hot water.
We wanted to test how the temperature of water affects the spectrum of a 550 lumen flashlight.
We decided that if the water is hot, it should result in a higher spectrum or wavelength because heat excites electrons, which releases photons.
For our control variable, we used room temperature water. Our changing variables were the other 2 temperatures of water, cold and hot.
So when we did the experiment, we got kind of like more red light in our picture and kind of like bluish light in our picture.
So Arthur thinks that since the red line, the highest for each one, the red line was approximately the same, he thinks that didn't affect the spectrum at all. However, I think if you look at the mean for each one, you would see that cold water actually has the highest spectrum, whereas room temperature and hot water have the same, which means that they are the lowest. This shows that the temperature of water does affect the wavelength or spectra of light, but not in the way that we thought it would.
Thank you.
Judges, do you have questions?
I was just curious where the problem came from. How'd you pick this topic?
We're just curious about it.
Yeah, my uncle was very interested in photons and he was like, oh, you should do it on photons. And so
Sure, why not? So I have a question.
Go in a circle.
So your variables was the cold and hot water, right? So when you say cold and hot, was there a temperature, a measured temperature of the cold and hot? I mean, you say cold and hot, I mean, it's different for everybody. Did you actually measure the temperature of the water between the
for
three?
the cold water, I just put some ice in it.
Okay,
And for the hot water, I just turned on the hot water tap and put it in.
cap out of the thing. So you don't have a recorded measurement of the water temperature itself. You know, the other thing I would add that it perhaps increasing either the cold and the hot water, you know, I guess that would be decreasing the temperature of the water, making it extremely cold or extremely hot, you know, at a higher level might produce more of a reaction in your results. So that might be something you want to look into.
Right.
Okay.
Can you speak your conclusion again? What is the temperature increase? So what is you see you mentioned the spectrum is what? So how does it shift the spectrum?
Oh, when I looked at the results, I thought they all looked relatively similar. So I decided that they didn't really affect it. But Jane thinks.
I looked at the mean because that is the wavelengths combined, and that was what we should have been looking at. And I saw that the cold water spectrum was the highest out of all three of them.
When you see highest, you mean the peak is higher.
Yes.
But what about the wavelengths? Does the shift the wavelengths towards shorter or longer wavelengths? In other words, where the shift towards the red or more bluish.
For each one, we noticed that it was mostly red because the red has like a lot more like in the graph.
So the higher the temperature, the more red, give you more red.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you know what's that mean?
Well, probably the hot water made it red.
Why hot water moves the wavelengths to red, to more red?
Because so the red lines means the more heated it is because it's higher in the spectrum, and the higher the spectrum you go, the hotter it gets.
Well, you got two measures. So one's the amplitude, okay, the other wavelengths, right? The wavelengths affects the basically is lambda, right? You understand because you must need a background. So when you shift to red, it means the wavelengths become longer, correct?
The amplitude.
Yes. No, it's not the amplitude. The wavelengths become longer. You got a longer wavelengths, right? Because the higher temperature gives you more molecular dynamics, more movement, trying to shift the wavelengths to the longer, right? That's right, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted you to challenge you to think about that. Second question. Each graph, is that the average of 5 measures or 5 observations?
So the average is the black line so the black line
You got
basically
5, right? You
Yeah.
did a 5 test.
Yeah.
So you did an average, right?
not of each test because couldn't really figure out how to do that. There
Gotcha.
wasn't really an app we could find to
Gotcha.
do that.
And the third question, just a follow up, is Mr. Delgado's question. That's an excellent question. There's a further thing you can do, I suggest. One, you can do continuous observation. As you increase the temperature little by little, then you can observe the wavelength change. You can get a graphics. That will give you a very direct observation. And if you want to follow up on this, I suggest you can modify the method and repeat. All right. Excellent work. For guys like you, that's a very, very good research, very good design. I really like it.
Yes, I'm gonna have you guys go ahead and sit with your parents. And we're gonna go back to one of our third place ties to Raymond and Bentley, since Raymond, your mom is now here, so we can go ahead and do it.
I'm Raymond.
And I'm Bentley.
And this is our science project. Does temperature affect the burn rate of candles?
Our testable question is how does ambient room temperature affect the burn rate of a candle?
My hypothesis is that if the room temperature is cold, then the candle will probably burn more slowly because it'll take longer for heat to warm the wax to its melting point. If the room temperature is hot, then it will burn faster because the wax is closer to its melting point before the flame burns out.
My hypothesis is I think the candle will burn depending on the room temperature. If the room temperature is cold, it will burn slower than if the room temperature was hot.
What we did is that first we had two same size boxes, same volume, and they're both aligned with aluminum foil so that the flame of the candle won't burn the cardboard. And what the cold box, which is this one that I'm holding, has 2 layers of styrofoam right here. And this is because since cold air is denser, it stays in the ground more, and we added the 2 layers of styrofoam so that it won't escape.
We also added a window to observe our experiment while it was burning.
Even when it was closed. Our result, what we did for the candles is we measured them by inches instead of waiting for it to burn out all the way completely. So what we did was that we added 2 identical 1-inch marks on all the candles over here. And we did this because every time we opened the box to put the candles in, it wasn't a steady temperature and the cold air or hot air would just escape. So once we closed the box and the flame was burning, we would wait until it reached the cold or hot air and the boxes would reach a steady temperature, and then we waited for the candle to burn, the flame of the candle to burn 1 inch. And then after that, that's when we start the timer. And then when it reached the second mark, basically 1 inch, that's when we'd stop the timer and record the temperature. We did that for all the boxes 9 more times. And our results for the cold box was that the temperature in the cold box was 15 degrees Fahrenheit. We were able to do this with a block of dry ice. And we used the secondary thermometer, which looks like this, to make sure that it was at a steady temperature for all test candles. For the candle to burn 1 inch, it took 11 minutes and 57 seconds for the first try. The second time took 12 minutes and 45 seconds. The third time took 11 minutes and 20 seconds. The fourth time took 13 minutes and 27 seconds. The fifth time took 15 minutes and 13 seconds. And the average temperature for the flame to burn 1 inch in the cold box was 12 minutes and 48 seconds.
Our results for the hot box was, in the hot box, the temperature was 170 degrees Fahrenheit. For our first trial, it took 2 minutes and 20 seconds. On the second trial, it took 2 minutes and 45 seconds. On the third trial, it took 2 minutes and 28 seconds. And the average time for the flame to burn 1 inch in the hot box was 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Problems we had during the second trial of the hot box experiment, we had to stop the experiment because the candle was tilting. Our solution to this problem was we added a cardboard tube around it to stop it from tilting.
just like this.
Another problem we had was during the cold box experiment. It was robbing the heat of the candle and it couldn't even burn the 1 inch mark. Our solution for this problem was to open the box a little bit.
In conclusion, both our hypotheses were correct. We both thought that the colder the room, the slower it take for the flame to reach 1 inch, and the hotter the room, the faster it take for it to burn 1 inch. And if we did this experiment again, even though we lined aluminum foil on both of these boxes, we would instead just got fireproof boxes instead, because it saved a lot of time instead of just lining it and gluing it. And, oh yeah, if you're gonna burn a candle in your house, just like scented candles or whatever, make sure that the ambient temperature around it or surrounding it is a lot colder, because then it would last longer than if it was hot. Thank you.
For your time.
You go first.
All right, just something to add. There's another reason, another thing you would do differently. Why you do the fireproof boxes? Because what happened during the experiment?
During our experiment, even though we lined it with aluminum foil, the candle was sitting in one place, and the flame the heat was going on top of the boxes, and we could even smell like the boxes burning. So, but it didn't burn, luckily.
I have a couple of
Didn't burn down
questions.
my house.
Yeah, first of all, in the higher temperature box, do you use a lamp to increase the temperature?
Mhm. We used the lamp and it reached 170 degrees Fahrenheit.
All right, you measure the temperature, right?
Yes.
Okay, you can observe.
Mhm.
And another question is, have you thought about the smaller the box? Obviously, they're same size, right?
Yes.
Exactly the same size.
Yes, they're the same size.
Yeah, and have you thought about the burns that consumes the oxygen, right?
Yes,
It
that's
depletes the oxygen.
Mhm.
And the rate of a depletion would be different. How would that impact your result? Any impact whatsoever?
Well, it did kind of impact the cold, because that was one of our problems we encountered, was that since it was cold, there wasn't a lot of air, I guess, inside, so it couldn't even reach 1 inch, the flame, because it didn't have enough oxygen. So we had to open the box a little bit to let a little bit of some air in, and we were able to finish our experiment.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Because if you to minimize the variation, you need to have a little bit bigger box.
Yeah.
A little bit bigger box
Mhm.
to minimize that variation. Yeah, there will be a variation, but as the box is big enough, this variable is diminishing, right? Because you put a lamp there, the
Yeah.
temperature increase, the air density is the air density is less. You have less oxygen to start with, right?
Yeah.
And the second one is the burning rate. Higher temperature, the burn faster, and it depletes the oxygen faster, and introduce another variable. So I suggest that you to use a bigger box and try it again.
So
You're not gonna, this will not change your conclusion, by the way. I predict it will not change your conclusion, but you will see a different graphics.
So
Right.
like bigger boxes.
Right.
Thank you for your suggestion.
Dr.
Good
Green,
work, very good work.
we have a question.
How long did it take you guys to finish all this experiment?
The whole thing.
Yeah, from beginning to end, how long did it take you?
4 or 5 days, like all of this, the board, the experiment itself.
This experiment?
No.
How many hours?
Oh, how many hours for the experiment? Like us doing the experiment? It took like no. Yeah, just the experiment. 6 hours.
A lot.
A lot. We'll settle with a lot. Thank you, boys. Go ahead. Right, so now we are at our very last project. It is our first place project, and that was done by Allie and Evelyn.
Hello, my name is Evelyn. Hi, my name is Ali, and our science fair project is the mental composition of a facial moisturizer. So our main idea is that we want to solve a problem. If you buy online or in store a facial moisturizer, you might look at the back and see this long list of ingredients and wonder what they are, and if they even achieve the goal of moisturizing your skin. And if you do find a moisturizer that's natural and has limited ingredients, it might be pricey. We wanted to solve both of these problems by creating a moisturizer that is not only 4 ingredients, but natural and moisturizes your skin. So me and Evelyn, wanting to take the next step in our science project, decided to ask the textbook question: how does the composition of natural ingredients in a facial moisturizer affect how well it retains its moisture? To answer that question, we came up with this hypothesis. If we remove an ingredient in a facial moisturizer, then it will retain less moisture because all the ingredients will work together to retain the most amount of moisture. So speaking of ingredients, we decided to make our moisturizer out of 1 cup of coconut oil, 1 teaspoon of almond oil, about 8 drops of hibiscus tea, and about 5 drops of rose essential oil. We also used a stand mixer to whip the moisturizer. To test, we followed this procedure. After making the moisturizer, we took a small jar and filled it with 10 milliliters of water. Then we placed a small piece of filter paper on top and put 1 teaspoon of the moisturizer on top and let it sit for 3 days. For each test, we changed the composition of the moisturizer. So for test 1, we kept it the same, making no changes. For test 2, we removed the hibiscus tea. For test 3, we removed the almond oil. For test 4, we removed the essential oil. For test 5, we removed the coconut oil. And so over here is a little bit of background research on how each of the ingredients retains moisture. We have tons of facts here that you can read later, but we're only going to state a few. So for the hibiscus tea and the plant itself, there's something called the mucilage, which is like this thick, sticky component that basically helps the plant store food and water. It helps with seed germination, and it also helps with thickening membranes, which is why hibiscus is so good at retaining moisture. Almond oil contains vitamin D and vitamin E, which helps soothe the skin from irritation, protect it from harmful UV rays, and most importantly, increase the skin's moisture barrier. Almond oil, according to a 2020 study, increases skin hydration by 24.8% and skin elasticity by 2.6% over 28 days. This leads me to our results after 3 days. For test 1, which was the regular recipe, had 11 milliliters of water in the jar. For test 2, which was the no hibiscus tea recipe, had 10 milliliters of water in the jar. For test 3, which had no almond oil, had 11 milliliters of water in the jar. For test 4, which had no essential oil, had about 9 milliliters of water in the jar. For test 5, which had no coconut oil, had 10 milliliters of water. To make this easier to visualize, we created a graph. Down here, you can see the different tests, and here are the amounts of liquid in the jar after 3 days. As you can see, the numbers and information in the chart match our results. So, in summary, the test that was regular and the test without almond oil, had the most amount of liquid retained after 3 days. But we ran into a problem as well. Test 4, or the one without essential oil, had 9 milliliters of water, even though we started off with 10. We think this is because of the process of evaporation, or that the moisturizer may have soaked up the water, which would not be good if you put it on your skin. So, in conclusion, our hypothesis was partially correct, because the no almond oil recipe, which was test 3, also had one of the highest amount of water in the jar after 3 days. We think that this happened because in most recipes, the almond oil is used to balance out the strong smells such as coconut oil or the rose essential oil. One more reason that this might have happened is because it takes about two weeks for the almond oil to soak into the skin. Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Go to our board members first. Keep coming around.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. How did you hone in on the four key ingredients that you mentioned? You said you scanned products that are in the market now and looked at some of the key ingredients that are most prevalent, or how did you come to that?
So we were kind of looking. So when we started this project, we actually didn't take it very seriously. So we were we were kind of like bouncing around different ingredients or if we want to do a face mask instead of a moisturizer. And honestly, we picked that one just because of the hibiscus and the rose part. But we also did background research on the ingredients and we figured out that a lot of them do have a lot of, they all retain moisture very well.
Yeah, first of all, I had some fantastic research. Truly for guys, girls like you guys. I don't know how old are you, may I ask?
12.
12, wow. Yeah, very impressive. I'm a scientist by training, so it's a very good research. Okay. I mean, the other research are also very good, but I like the way you approach that, and I also like the presentation. Hypothesis, right? Material methods, and how you do it, the results and discussion. I like that. Okay, I like the flow. Yeah, I do have a few questions. Okay. In your conclusion, you have a different, I suggest you can, graph it, right? You have a different oil and, see the percentage. If you can present it in a way to show the percentage change or the volume change, it'll be even better. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you want to tell your audience a little bit about, these 4 types of oil or material. What a difference in terms of the molecular structure or the length of the oil, right? Because that make a difference. Without knowing what are the chemical characteristics of these oils, we have no comparison. If you can compare the structure or the length of that oil, it's a carbon chain, right? It's a carbon, a long carbon. Sometimes it has more other groups. Okay. Other times, they may be because of the structure that affects the molecular, the structure and the so-called hydrophilicity or hydrophobicity. Then you can draw a direct linkage between your observation and the structure. That'll be even better. Okay, that's very, very good work. I like it. I really want to comment. Okay, congratulations.
I was like, we have a little brother who is dying to ask a question.
Why is your moisturizer so oily? Because it's like 85% oil.
Okay, first of all, this is a great experiment because I also have dry hand. Always look for the right moisturizer. By the way, I use olive oil. So it's oilier than what she has. So my question is, so you have these ingredients mixing together and then you have different sample by taking out one of the ingredients. So you say the almond oil is the one that retain the most?
So the recipe without almond oil and the regular test retain the most amount of moisture.
Oh, without the almond. Oh, okay. So how did you come up with this project again? I mean, this is very good. I mean, I'm just saying, wow.
Okay, so I guess the only way to say this is we're going through a phase of yeah, that and so we couldn't really come up with a project at first, and I was looking in Ms. Kaminsky's room and looking at the scientific process, and it's figure out something that you want to know more about. And I have these moisturizers at home, and I bet she does too. And I was looking at the back of them when I was doing my routine one night, and I came up with this question. But yeah, that's kind of.
So you have samples of these out too?
We do. We do.
Excellent. I love that. Yes.
Yes, if you would like to try their sample, because a lot of people have tried their samples.
But thank you so much. Can we go ahead and get a round of, oh.
Wait,
yeah.
I got one more
Oh,
thing.
question.
Just what, it's not really a question. It's for those of you who don't know, but Evelyn right there was also the spelling bee champion. Is that true? First place spelling bee, right? Also, just so you know.
You could, another suggestion, perhaps you can think about setting up a initial experiment with the same equal volume, right? And put it in a graduate cylinder, and measure, and see that equal volume of oil, equal volume of water, and different experiment, and then see the volume change to start with. Perhaps in the beginning there will be a volume difference. Try that.
Any moisturizer you create during an IA, project,
They can sell it.
The school gets something, a piece of that, right? Something.
So you're asking for an LLC?
Yeah, we need some kind of, because you created that under our umbrella.
just have to figure out the pricing.
Yeah, the
because it's
pricing.
really expensive.
Well,
I'm not gonna ask you guys questions, but as a teacher, I want you to know you all 8 of you are the dream of a teacher. Yeah. And you make teacher proud, you make parents proud. I see a bright future for you guys. You said same enthusiasm and energy and effort into whatever you do. And I love the way that you guys, I can tell, I see teamwork, I see collaboration, I see equally you guys understand the project, and you're not afraid of judges, and then I love the way that, you kind of listen to the questions, and whoever can answer the question, you pass the mic to the other person. It's just beautiful. So I'm so proud of you guys. I'm not going to ask a question because I've been a teacher for so many years. I used to drill my students all the time, but I'm just so proud of you guys.
So board members, just to add on, yes, they went through the entire scientific method, and yes, they did a lot of scientific things in order to come up with the results. But as a school, we threw a different, more challenging task to them because we did ask them to incorporate Mandarin in all of their projects. So all key vocabulary words, and some of the kids even went above and beyond and wrote paragraphs in Mandarin. So we might have focused on science and scientific method, but we still stayed true to ourselves and made sure that we included our dual immersion aspect in our project. So all projects do have a touch of Mandarin, and all of our Mandarin teachers assisted on helping our kids translate and getting their projects where they are today.
Okay, one last big round of applause for all of our students. Thank you, students. You're all wonderful and brilliant. And then also, please, parents and board members, big round of applause for Parisa Kaminsky and Matt Gibbons, who helped lead the whole science fair. Well done. Thank you. All right, we will continue with the executive director report. So board members, that was a special treat, huh? And we took your feedback, I think it was last month, and I think Felipe brought that up, but we should showcase our students more at these board members, or at these board meetings, so we did that. All right, let's go ahead and continue our executive director report. So today I also want to report the updates on enrollment and where we stand. So our current enrollment, first of all, during winter break, there's a natural withdrawal of some students because students would be moving, or students' tenure in the country causes them to actually move back to China. So we knew that we would lose some students, and before winter break, we had 372 students. We lost probably about 5 families, but our enrollment is actually at 374. So we were able to actually gain a +2, and that's all because of Sai and Mary Beth's hard work with enrollment. So thank you for your team. So there's 374 as we stand today, which is actually very good. P1, at the end of P1, our ADA percentage was 96.4 for attendance. And we want to be at 95%. So 96.4 for P1, that's the whole first 3 months of our school, was above where we expected. Now, however, for this past month, brace yourself because of winter break, sicknesses, and travel, attendance will decline for this next month. And so we have to brace ourselves for that. Okay. Continuing, just again, in terms of programming, you saw some examples of the science fair, spelling bee. We continue our dual immersion. We had very significant growth. We grew from, I believe it was 13 to 29% Mandarin proficiency from the fall to winter on the level learning. We grew both in math and ELA by 12 and 13 points on the iReady. So significant growth in terms of academics for our students. This Thursday, when I have coffee with the principal, I will be discussing the results of iReady. Some of our parents, although our students grew and are on grade level, some of our parents are still concerned that they're a couple percentage points below national norm percentile rate. So in other words, their child may be at 88th percentile when the national norm is 90th percentile. So I'm going to explain that on Thursday, but it's definitely nothing to be concerned about. We want to see growth, and we definitely want to see Lexile growth. So that's happening very well. A couple of things. Today we had external independent auditor come in and audit for the next couple of days, today and tomorrow, regarding our PCSGP grant. That's the Public Schools Charter Startup Grant. And we are at the end of that. And so at the end of that, we need to submit an independent third-party audit of our program here. So she's actually on from Zafira. I don't know if she wants to say anything about her initial thoughts from today. And that is she there?
Caroline.
Yep.
Hi, everyone.
Caroline, we'll let you go ahead and chat with our board.
Oh, good evening, board. It's a pleasure to meet all of you. I actually wrote your original PCSGP grant years ago. I think it was 600,000. So glad I was able to bring that amount of money to your school when you first started. So now you're at the end of that time and coming in to do the external review. It is just absolutely wonderful where the school is now. And I visited every classroom today with Dr. Bean, and what I was very impressed with the program, with the commitment of the teachers, with the enthusiasm of the teachers, with the engagement of the students. You have a print-rich environment. It's a beautiful school, considering how many of our fellow charter schools have to have a Prop 39 location that is subpar. You're very fortunate. And if you're not accustomed to charter schools, I hope you know how fortunate you are. It's actually quite a lovely school and a beautiful location. So that's an important piece to know. I got to meet with your instructional leadership team. I met with your kindergarten team while they were doing their planning session. I met with your director of student support services. I met with Sandy Small about Mandarin language development and RTI. I was able to talk to a lot of your staff who are also parents and to get the parent perspective. I talked with students in the class. So all of those are fantastic. The external audit looks at every aspect of your program, from governance to the educational program, to achievement, to operations, to autonomy from the county, as well as your enrollment process, your admissions process, your record keeping, your fiscal process. And I don't see any problems at all. There are no red flags. You already know what red flags you've had. And at this point, those are a distant memory, and there is nothing but, a few tweaks just to make the program even stronger. And when I met with the team today, they were aware of what those tweaks were. And that is the power of a strong instructional staff. So you have the right people in the right place. And I encourage you to just keep supporting the process and keep working on, knowing that we're going to have a little more tighter financial years coming up, since some of the monies that came after COVID are gone now. But knowing that the program is strong and is, I think, ready for expansion and replication in especially in Orange County, which is open to charter schools, whereas some counties are not. So I will be preparing a report, which will be submitted to the state. And of course, you will get a copy, and you have time to review that before it is due at the state. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Just a comment. First of all, I just want to thank you for your support initially, but also ongoing here. Just a question to Dr. Bean on maybe some of the gaps or corrective actions that we need to work on. How is that delegated? Who's responsible for overseeing it?
Great question. So let me answer that after I say it's anecdotally. I did not make the staff aware of this visit until actually, I believe, yesterday. And I did that on purpose because I wanted the staff to be authentic and to do what they normally do well. And so what Dr. Wesley saw today was purely authentic. So we were very, very happy with what we saw instructionally. The next steps, both Dr. Wesley and I both agree on, and they're very two instructional steps that the instructional leadership team will be responsible for. And that's more collaborative conversation among our students. And then the other is more kinesthetic learning for our boys. Because we notice a lot of boys could certainly be disengaged because they need a lot more movement. Both things would come naturally for a school that focuses on language. Because language is a lot about listening first, and for many boys that can be very difficult to just listen. So we got listening, speaking. The speaking part, we need to really build in collaborative groups and partnerships. So those two main instructional foci, our instructional leadership team will be responsible for. And they got to hear it today, actually, in a conversation with Dr. Wilson.
And it's good to see you, Marcy. I haven't seen you in a while.
Just email lately.
I know.
We'll get you on there, Marcy.
Miller, you're there as well. Would you, Miller, Doug, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, it's great job. I like that.
I would echo the same thing. It's good to get such a nice report, but more than that, to see outside eyes viewing our school in such a positive light. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
We always appreciate the feedback, especially for those visiting, maybe part of the process in the beginning and along the way, but we love to see the improvements and how we can make IA better each and every day, which Dr. Bean has definitely helped to steward. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Dr. Wesley, for your time today. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to just watch a little bit just to watch how you guys do, because that is actually part of the external review. So pretend I'm not here, even though I'm watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I know we have Marcy online, and I know we want to get to the audit report. So let me just do a few items from the executive director report, and then we'll get Marcy on. Really quickly, just update on the countywide charter. I'm gonna meet with Brett and Felipe, but because there was a charge by this board a couple months ago to get us financially healthy, fiscally healthy, before we really start to expand, we delayed the submission of countywide charter. We're gonna delay it until August probably, August or September to be approved. The sooner the better, actually, maybe July, August submission, so that we then have all of next school year to get the following, right, the school year or school up. And so we're gonna delay that. We wanted to submit it in the spring of this year, but we're gonna delay it until probably the beginning of the fall. Okay, so that's the update there on that. Quickly, we're in open enrollment right now, in which families are able to apply for the lottery. Our lottery takes place March 20th. Before we've even launched our social media campaign blitz, we already have how many applications? 104. And that has only been about a week. Is that correct? It's only been a week. And most of those 104 are exactly in the grade levels we want, which is TK and kinder for next year.
Historically, what has it been? Do we have a reference point?
Well, yeah, I
First
mean,
week in prior years.
You wait until publicity before we.
yeah. So usually we could get over 100 after publicity, right? The media blitz. We haven't even done the media blitz. So this is just word of mouth. But once we do the social media blitz, that number will increase. The main focus on the social media blitz, though, will be building our middle school. Which leads me to Prop 39 right now. We are finishing negotiation with IUSD. They will be presenting it to their board February 20th with the addition of square footage. So it will cost a little bit more rent-wise. However, with our growth next year, we're going to be adding 4 more classes, and that's where we're going to house our middle school. So our middle school will be separate, but in that wing of the building. And hopefully that will garner some interest in terms of when they come and tour, they're going to say, oh yeah, there is clearly a middle school separated. And so that's what we negotiated. They sent me word today that everything looks good and that they're going to honor the request. I don't know what that means for the virtual academy that they have right there, but that's for them to decide. So that is the update in terms of Prop 39 and open enrollment. And I think that will conclude my executive director report unless you have any questions. And then we'll turn it over to Marcy to give us the financial update in regards to the audit report. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I don't have a question. For the middle school, you said it will be different wings. It's within this big complex right here, still here, right?
Correct. It's going to be in this complex still, but there's 4 classrooms in that wing that actually we separated this year for IUSD. And all the students know not to go in that area at all. So it'll be nice to convert it to our middle school where our elementary students will be used to not going in that area. So we can put a partition there and just make it our middle school students.
Gotcha. But when the entrance and the exit will be the same, they share the same entrance and exit.
Actually, no, there's actually an entrance
Separate.
separate over here that ICI or the virtual academy is using. We can do the same. All right, we can have an entrance over there for our students. You know, we still have to, Mary Beth and I still need to talk about whether we want our parents to go through the main office.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Will we be at 100% utilization of the building after that?
Yeah, after that, we're gonna be 100%. So the year after that, once we get our countywide, hopefully we get our countywide charter, we need to find another location for our second school. So we're looking at, again, San Juan Capistrano, Spanish dual immersion, elementary school. All right, any other questions? Now remember, the countywide charter will go TK to 12. So allow us to expand naturally into those other grade levels as we open up schools in the different county, different locations of the county. All right, so we had to submit our 2022-2023 audit report. And so I'm gonna have Marcy, you guys have had 72 hours to look through it. It was in the board documents. So Marcy's gonna go ahead and give us some summary and some highlights for you to ask any questions now, because I don't think we're gonna ask her to be with us when you approve it in item 7D. We're not gonna ask Marcy to wait that long. So any questions you have right now, do it in the information item, which is item 5B. Okay? All right, Marcy?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, am I able to screen share at all? It looks like it's disabled.
Let me.
Just a kind of a brief presentation.
Okay, go ahead, Marcy.
Thank you. Okay. You see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, this is the audit report covering the fiscal year that ended June 30th of 2023. I just like to emphasize the fiscal year, the 2022-23 fiscal year, just because we're always kind of, as auditors, reviewing historical information, whereas you guys are full steam ahead into the new school year. So this is a backtrack to last year. So again, Marcy Kearney, I'm a CPA and I'm also the partner for this audit engagement. And I'll just go through briefly on some information. So this is the cover page. You all have received a copy of the audit report. It is an audit of the nonprofit organization itself. So the Western Mandarin Immersion Charter School, which operates the public charter school, Irvine International Academy. As far as the financial statements go, just an overview, the statement of financial position, other words, your balance sheet is included. Your statement of activities is your income statement, or maybe you'd refer to it as a profit and loss. Statement of functional expenses just covers your expenses in a natural class, so it's kind of more aligned to the object codes that you see during budget reports. Your statement of cash flows, kind of the ins and outs of the change from your beginning balance of cash and to the ending balance as reported as of June 30th of 2023. And then a integral part of the financial statements are the notes to the financial statements, because they provide kind of a deeper dive into each of those major material financial balances. The supplementary information is very unique to charter schools and K-12 agencies. So if you're familiar with maybe looking at financial statements for another nonprofit organization, say a foundation or some other nonprofit, it's likely not going to have these supplemental schedules that are very unique to K-12 agencies. So you're going to have the LEA organizational list, which is essentially your administrators and your board members as of June 30th of 2023. I always emphasize as of June 30th of 2023 for those new board members that say, hey, my name's not there. That's because it was the board that was in place as of that date. There's a schedule of average daily attendance, ADA, because that's what drives your funding. So that's an important one for the CDE to review. There's also a schedule of instructional time, and that's just to display the annual instructional time offering to make sure that you're meeting your minimum day requirement for the school year, and also the minimum minutes requirement for the school year, because every charter school and every school has to adhere to that. There's also a reconciliation between the audited financial statements and then those financial statements that were provided back when you approved the unaudited actuals. And that was likely approved probably at your September board meeting or so. And so just an overview of responsibilities, the organization has the responsibility to design and maintain effective internal controls, and also to prepare the financial statements in this, with regards to your organization, you've contracted with a back office provider to assist with this service, and then also just kind of maintaining budget going forward. The auditor's responsibility, the only thing we own within this entire document are the audit opinion letters. So the main objective is to provide an audit opinion, and the opinion provides reasonable assurance. I just emphasize that because it's the highest level of assurance, but it is not absolute insurance. We're not looking at 100% of the transactions throughout the year. But again, it's a reasonable assurance. It's a high level of assurance. And with that, I'm gonna really emphasize on the audit opinion letters, which there are a total of 3 within this document. So number one audit opinion, on page 1, it's the most important one over the financial statements themselves. So there was no material misstatements here, which is a good, clean audit opinion, best opinion possible. And you'll see here that, again, it's over the nonprofit organization itself, which includes the operations of the charter school. And then there is an added statement regarding a substantial doubt about the organization's ability to continue as a going concern. And so what that means is we just want to emphasize that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material specs. However, there is this issue that we've noted, and I've underlined kind of the main root cause is really because you ended the year with a negative net assets, which from, kind of fiscal solvency issues, we really want to make sure that the financial statement user is aware of that and focuses on that footnote within the notes of the financial statements, which is note 12, on how management intends to resolve that negative net assets. So as Dr. Bean had covered with increased enrollment and efforts to really improve the student involvement and participation and attendance, those are main drivers of your funding sources because of attendance and directly related to student numbers. So that's kind of one of the main focuses within that footnote. And I apologize, I'm a little under the weather, so my voice is so raspy right now. Another opinion letter, it's on page 21, so the very end of the audit report document. And this opinion has to do with government auditing standards. So being that you are a K-12 agency that operates as a public charter school, we also have to do what we call a yellow book audit, or an audit that covers government auditing standards. So in this case, we look at internal controls to see how they impact the financial statements. We don't place an opinion over internal controls themselves. However, if we were to note any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, we would make mention in this audit opinion or audit opinion letter. In this case, no issues of significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses noted. So no areas of concern that play into the financial statement preparation. And the third audit opinion letter is specific to K-12 agencies. All K-12 schools, school districts, county offices, and charter schools have to go through a state compliance audit. And so us auditors, the Education Audit Appeals Panel from the CDE puts out a K-12 audit guide for us to follow. And you'll see in this table, it appears on page 24 of the audit report. And these are all the procedures that we had to perform as it relates to the charter school operations. So you'll see a lot of items that are not applicable, just being a newer charter school in operation. Sometimes these programs just last from year to year, so they're not really relevant. But you'll see there are some items, for example, attendance being one of the main ones. Mode of instruction has to do with classroom-based instruction and having certificated teachers and the like. So you'll see that we've made mention that we perform procedures over those programs. So as far as the K-12 audit opinion goes, again, a good, clean audit opinion, no issues of non-compliance and no issues of any sort of deficiencies or material weaknesses that play into K-12 compliance. Page 26 has a summary of the auditor's results. I just like to emphasize this because, again, it goes over those 3 opinions. The yellow book and the main financial statement opinion on page 1 is covered under the financial statement section. Federal awards, if perhaps years down the line when you are operating multiple schools, you might hit that threshold, which is expending over $750,000 in federal funds. So that would trigger the need for a federal single audit. In this case, being a 1-school operation, you didn't have that much in federal funding. State awards, again, good, clean audit opinion there, no issues of non-compliance, no findings noted. So again, that summary is just on page 26 of the audit report. Some other key points I like to emphasize, use of estimates. There's always use of estimates when it comes to certain items that are maybe not so definite. For example, useful life of assets, how long are they really going to last? There's certain estimates that go into play with that. Any sensitive disclosures, again, I emphasize the note 12 that has to do with the negative net assets. Audit adjustments, no material misstatements were noted, so we didn't have any material audit adjustments here. If there were any disagreements or difficulties or potential audit findings, we would make mention. Again, none here. We do, as part of our audit procedures, follow up on any previously reported audit findings, and that's at the very end of the audit report, any prior audit findings, which there was one in the 2021-22 fiscal year. And we noted that the corrective action plan essentially has been implemented. The current status of it, it's not a continuing issue. So again, it wouldn't be reported as a 22-23 audit finding. And then management representation. As I emphasized, the only thing that we as an audit firm own are the opinion letters. The financial statements are those of the organization, and management has taken responsibility for those financial statements and with in the form of a management representation letter. Other than that, I just want to say thank you for having me, first off. I really appreciate you inviting me to be a part of your organization, provide some information from the audit process. And then just a big thank you to the staff. It's not easy going through an audit, as I'm sure they're well aware today with having Caroline visit. And so I do thank you for all of your time and effort with gathering all of the student and attendance records that come into place, and then also just being available to answer any follow-up questions and the like. So thank you so much. Are there any questions at all?
Thank you, Marcy, very much for presenting that, and also for presenting when you're not feeling quite well. We really appreciate it. Thank you to your team for taking the time to go through it. Be great partners like you to help us navigate through all these things and raise the issues where they need to be addressed, and provide a clear report. So thank you very much for your support.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
I have a question, if I may. Thank you for the report. My name is David Yatusan. I have a question. So in your auditing, the focus on compliance, or mostly on the financials, or all the documents, related documents? For example, did you have a chance to review some of the contracts to make sure all the contracts reflects on the financials? Sometimes either the purchasing contract or whatever other contracts. What is the focus?
So the focus mainly is on the financial statements themselves and making sure that they're not materially misstated. That's number one. With regards to kind of government auditing standards, we do look into the processes and procedures that go into place. So with those, we do look at the processes relating to whether it be, we sample a selection of cash disbursements or payments going out. We also look at money coming in, so donations and the like, just to make sure there's an adequate audit trail behind them with regards to, collection of funds and making sure they're timely deposited and making sure they're being recorded correctly within the financial software. And then there's a compliance component with regards to the K-12 kind of attendance and student records and the like. So it's very heavy on the financial side, but again, it also incorporates the K-12 audit guide and what steps we have to follow with compliance with regards to that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Doug or Miller, any questions or comments?
No, none from me. Thank you, Ms. Kearney.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug.
Yes. Just real quick. Thank you, Marcy, for your efforts, because it really helps the board to be able to look at, there's a lot of aspects of the school that's going on, and nobody can truly have their finger on everything going on. So really appreciate an opportunity that you tell us that you've taken a deep dive into the financials, and I can go back and say, yes, everything's above board, is working as it should be. So thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Marcy, for joining us this evening. I know you're under the weather, but I also wanted to recognize a couple individuals that actually support in all of Marcy's requests, and that's Delano, and that is Mary Beth. Mary Beth houses all of that information, and she and I both upload it into their platform so that the audit can be done. So big kudos to you. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Delano. Great, okay, moving on to consent agenda items. We have one item to review and discuss. Board will consider the approval of the December 9, 2023 board meeting minutes. Any comments, edits, anything that needs to be proposed? Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, thank you, Felipe. A second. Seconds, Molly?
Yes.
I'm a yes. David? Yes. Felipe?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to discussion action items. First item, the board will discuss IA's future leadership needs, spearheaded by Mr. Delgado.
That's me. You know, as you, all the board members are aware that the school is expanding, right? The initial plan given by Dr. Bean several meetings ago was about looking for a principal to support him here at the school. Those plans were slightly delayed, you know, because of our financials. But as you can see, even from earlier today, when they were reporting about the number of students that are trying to apply, I mean, what do you want to call that? Early application. And we haven't even gone out yet for publicly. You know, I think that it definitely gives you a finger on the pulse of how many students we're going to get next year. And as you all also know, it's always been the administrative staff to have an executive director or principal at the school, right? That was day one. We had to change that a little bit. But as we move into next year, it appears to me that there's going to be a substantial amount of students where we're going to need that extra administrative staff. Now, Dr. Bean had talked about looking at, when was that, in April? I think it was April timeframe that we start looking for that, Mr. Bean?
Yeah, usually March and April is when you start searching for next year's.
Searching for next year's student.
Staff.
I believe we definitely have to start looking at that, the future of the school. You know, if every classroom here is taken next year, you know, there's gonna be a lot of kids. And, you know, I believe, although, okay, Dr. Bean does a fantastic job and all that, but, you know, there's only so much one person can do, right? And I really think if our product is the education of our students, we need somebody watching the teachers closer, you know, and that person is the principal. That is their, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bean, that is that principal's number one responsibility to be watching the teachers
developing
and how they development and how they execute the curriculum and everything involved in that. That is his primary focus, right? And I think if we want a quality product here, we need to step that up. You know, there needs to be somebody responsible for that directly. So it's my belief that we should be looking for a principal. It's not that I want to, not that I push Mr. Bean now. I'm sure he'll be involved to, you know, in supporting the school and everything, but that principal's task needs to be focused on the teachers and the teachers, thus the students.
And just you know, the context is we'll have almost 500 students is projected for Prop 39. 120 students more than what we have currently. So 120 multiply that to about, you know, 15,000. So the revenue certainly will be there, and not to mention, Delano and I would not allow the hiring of a principal unless we are, you know, fiscally responsible.
So I'd like to throw that out as a discussion with the board, what they feel. I mean, you obviously now know what I feel. I'd like to know a little bit more about what you guys think about that.
So I think earlier is better, not necessarily hiring, but laying out who that person looks like, their qualities, what we are looking for here, give us more runway. I would really defer to you, Dr. Bean, on, we have to balance the economic solvency of the school and the timeline on when we would bring someone in and how wide a net we would cast to do that. But I certainly would be looking for someone that has your blessing and who you think would be able to do a very good job here, especially as we're looking at expanding campuses. And I know we talked about this before, but I certainly would love to see a proposal of some sort, some roadmap that you might present to us that we could take a look at. I think, at least from my perspective, I want to be supportive of what we need to manage the 500 kids, but also to create a sustainable structure that we can duplicate in other locations.
Well, I'm gonna take over here a little bit.
No.
So if we increase 100+ students next year, what kind of increase of the staff would there be?
Pretty much.
Just estimate, you know.
Actually, not that much, because remember, we have staffing for middle school, but we don't have maximum capacity in the middle school. We also have our staff for the primary grade levels, which is where we get all our new students, TK, kindergarten. So additional staff wouldn't be as much as you would think to add 120, because we have many of the staff on board right now.
And the students would be moving up into the middle school.
And students would be
Right.
matriculating into the middle school, which we already have staff for.
Which makes way for the lower grades.
Correct.
Which is where the bulk. of
That's
the
correct.
same are gonna come in.
That's correct.
So we get additional staff, but not like I'm imagining.
Yeah. We may have additional teacher here, but not multiple teachers.
Yeah, I also wanted to concur with Philippe and Brett. I think about 2 or 3 board meetings ago, about 2 or 3 months ago, I also raised a question, talk about the leadership development programs.
Yeah.
And once hiring, looking actively from outside, external, and do a search. The others develop within.
Yes.
We talk about this.
Yes.
And as a board member, I would love to see if you can come up with a proposal or plan, especially given your plan to expand to a second campus and even a third campus in the coming years. I think it's time to really put this in action. We probably needed to get started, right? To follow leadership. Once developed internally and have some candidates, and these candidates could be promoted, in preparation for the future expansion. You don't necessarily bring everyone outside, and you may send a couple of people to form a nucleus to build a team there in a separate campus. That would be my suggestion.
Well, I always like, I gotta tell you, David, I always like internal,
Yeah.
even if you're internal myself. I
Of
feel
course.
that nobody has the.
You have
the
a
heart,
testing,
yeah,
right?
the heart of the school as much as the internal teachers are
Yeah.
here, right? Somebody from internal always has that passion,
Well, they share the same, culture, and
Mhm.
sometimes,
Right.
the belief and value. It would be easier.
Then somebody from the outside.
Exactly.
You take a bigger risk, right?
Yeah, but we don't exclude external candidates, but you always combine these two.
There's a lot of good external candidates.
And you-
There's one right there. One right there, right?
You-
I mean,
you
you get
can-
an external candidate, it can be good, right?
Yeah. Well, you can feel good about the evaluation process that I will take, because obviously I've worked with hundreds of principals, literally, in graduate program as well as supervising them. So I know what makes good leader. And I'll be able to tell you if we have any internal candidates that would rise up to that level. But remember that we definitely have a pipeline internally, but the pipeline, you still need some time to develop them. And if we're gonna talk about next fall, more than likely, it would need to be an external. But I can discuss that with you guys when I have a plan in place for you. But what I hear from you is you would like me to present a leadership plan or proposal at the next board meeting, so you guys can may finalize that. Yep. I can do
Yeah,
that.
and a roadmap
Mhm.
of how, so a roadmap of the school and the expansion and where the leadership plugs into that.
Good.
For me, at least, that would be helpful. And we just have some general ideas and timelines and just some check-in
Yep.
over a period to see how we're trending on our roadmap. And of course, we learn new things, right? Maybe we submit things later because we're learning new things, whatever it is, but at least we have some direction.
Yeah. I can do that.
And I think that if we can find an internal, that would be great. But that person also need to get certified. There's a lot of preparation. If it's external, I think Dr. Bean, you've been doing both jobs. I mean, more than both jobs. And so if it's external, and I believe that you will be able to get that person ready so that we don't have to every year start from scratch again. You know, you already set a good example and so on.
Yeah, and that's the role of the executive director, is to assure the development of the principal, right?
Yes.
Are you willing to come out of retirement? Be interested in applying?
Are you talking to me?
You too, yeah, you too. I know, you know.
I'm sorry.
Get your admin credential and let's talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my, yeah, just to add on, when I talk about the leadership, developing the program or plan, I also mean, you know, assistant principal or associate, or whatever
Right.
you call.
Yes.
Not only for principal
Yep.
candidate.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you really want to see there's the staffing structure, not only this school, but potentially the expanding school
Exactly.
and central office, right? So yeah,
Because you need all kinds of.
yeah, we can definitely help. with that.
It's a pyramid.
Yeah.
You know, I
provide
think it'd be interesting that, you know, there's people that appeal to that. You know, there's maybe somebody already working here who might have that appeal to, that they might wanna walk into that, you know, and be involved in that. It seems to me like, at least in my industry, that's kind of how everybody advances. You know, Kenny, that somebody notices that you're interested in being this activity or being that role or something like that. It could be somebody internal who speak up, right? And then they could benefit from some kind of, you know, assigning responsibilities that they start to move up in that position. You know, like you said, consistent to Dr. Dean or something like that. So that's possible too. But I think in the time frame that we're talking about, it's gonna have to be somebody external. Yeah. That's what I think. By next year?
Right.
What's the first day of school next year?
I think what, August 10th? We haven't finalized the calendar yet. We're gonna propose that to you.
Early
next month.
August, right?
Yeah, early August. Right.
That's not a long time away.
Yeah. But just so you have a glimpse, I mean, it is very purposeful, and we will give, if the assumption is with the extra students, we have certainly the money that will put us in a good financial situation that we can hire a principal. It would make sense because then I'm going to need that on ramp to really build or get this other school while a leader's here leading. And of course, I will be side by side with the new leader to continue the running of this school. Obviously, wouldn't leave the leader and say, but you know, good luck. Of course not. And so it does really make sense. So
Yeah, you're not going away soon.
no,
Even if that person is here.
right.
You
gotta build other schools.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the plan.
Doug or Miller, we want to invite your comments if you have any.
My thoughts have been very similar to what each of you has said, and I do like the idea of a high-level plan that merges together the personnel, the physical plants or places that we would do education, and then a high-level look at the budget. But I'm hearing that analysis is already in the works. So I'll tell you another thing that's a little bit contrarian, and it's a tension that I hold. One part of me says, oh, I love this vision and it's exciting. There's another part over here that says, we got such a great thing going right here. Why do we want to do anything else? But then I remember the vision has always been to take this methodology and replicate it or show it and share it with other educators. And so I let go of my safety and look to the future, and let go of that mooring a little bit. But I do want to see a great plan for it.
Well, we certainly hope that any expansion is incremental benefit to what we build. Did you have any?
Yes, I very appreciate the long-term plan, and then also through the science presentation that I just discovered that the whole chemistry of our team, even the board members, has a high level of science knowledge. They should be the professor of the school. Yeah, and it was so wonderful. And then also, I just see the, Dr. Bean's invitation for Molly to become another level of achievement. So I appreciate this is the working spirit. I mean, that means that, the future is bright, and then also, I mean, it's already happened. So I'm just seeing this is a great sign. And then right now I'm just sitting in one of the schools, year end in China, the top schools year end report. So I'm just echo with both, and then just say that, you are wonderful, especially Dr. Bean and then the whole teacher team. So thank you.
Thank you, Miller. Okay, excellent. Anything else on this topic, or we'll move to the next item? But I would ask Dr. Bean, if you think next board meeting you might have some general plan. Yeah, I will. That would be great. Okay, next item, the board will discuss the gala planning and logistics. Mr. Delgado.
Yeah.
It's a coincidence.
Okay, as you're aware, we had our first gala last year. It was very successful. So Dr. Bean asked that we do one again this year, right? And I had always planned that it would be an annual event for us. So we are moving forward with that plan, and this year we're going to be heavily supported by the PTO. PTO will be handling a lot of the activities that were handled by internal staffing at the school. Currently, we've selected a date already, so we have May 4th is our target date for the gala. It's the plan this year. Last year we had it during the day. This year it's going to be between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. So the evening event, more of that type of 5 to 11. 5 to 11. Yeah. So the evening event instead of the day. Yeah. One evening. There'll be currently looking at the Hilton across the street from the airport. They have a substantial sized ballroom. And also what worked very well last year is that we had room available for the students to be able to participate. We have a room available there. So they're going to give us 2 rooms, one in the gala room and a separate room for our students, just like we had last year. It seemed like that model worked very well, and the students are very excited about doing that. I think it's a great opportunity for them to learn about social skills and to how to behave in a proper environment, right? So that's going to be available there. Dancing, dance floor, presentation stage, whole thing. So we're going big. We're going to go big this year. We are anticipating at least 230 people. Last year we had 179. I can't remember if it was 179 or 79 people participate. So this year, based on our numbers, we're going to there'll be 13 front row tables this year purchased. Oh, and the best part is, it looks like based on the numbers, we get this all to work out right. It'll be the same cost as last year, same price as last year. So we're going to try to hold that price for the ticket. That in hopes of getting plenty more participation. So that's the information I have right now. There we go.
How close are you to signing at the venue?
Pretty close. Yeah, very close. Yeah. I'd like to get that before the end of the month. We'd like to have that.
What's the
next week or the weekend?
What's the estimated
I'm
cost?
sorry, this week or the weekend.
define what that means, because there's different costs for the venue, there's costs for the other activities and things like that. So
But the tickets cover the cost.
the tickets will cover that cost, yeah. And when you buy one of those tables.
Yeah. That's right.
That'll help a lot. That's right. That'll help a lot. So we'll have, I can't remember how many tables we had last year, but it wasn't 13. So we'll have 13 front row tables available, so that way we can sell those. You know. So that's fine. So that's what we got right now. It's all looking good. I would expect a big show.
So
I like to throw a big party, so.
Early signing up, we'll have a discount.
Yeah.
Early sign discount, right?
You know, one of the things that was from last year was kind of it was more of a celebration, I'm gonna call it. There was a fundraising component. It was a gala celebration fundraiser kind of thing. I've talked to the team and I've told them, listen, this year we need to focus more on the fundraising. So we're working on that. So there'll be entertainment, but fundraising is the key.
So speaking of fundraising, may I give you an update on fundraising? Okay, so this does apply to this item on the agenda because it connects with the gala. We will be launching tomorrow, actually, Communication to Home, the $1 million for the Year of the Dragon. For Lunar New Year, we're launching the $1 million wall. And the wall is going to be where a vendor make a dragon, a wall. And so donors that donate $500 or more will get their family plaque up on this wall. And so including any donors that have already donated in the last couple months, which we've had actually several.
I was a little worried there.
No, of course.
I didn't mean to cut.
No. You're in. So the families will get the plaque on this dragon wall. Great thing about the dragon wall is that it will be portable, so we can, if we actually get a permanent location in 5 years or whatever, it goes along with us. Unlike the first year where they made kind of a paper dragon wall, that I heard about that. So what's going to happen is that on February 2nd we have Lunar New Year celebration, and between now and all through February, the classes will have an opportunity to raise funds through the red envelope. And so, as you know, in the Chinese tradition and culture, when a person gives a red envelope to a recipient, it's to give the recipient luck, right? And good fortune. And so that when the recipient receives, the more money, the more fortune, good fortune that person gets. And so that's the classes are going to compete. The classes that bring in the most red envelopes and or raise the most money through the red envelopes, that class will get a class party like a Get Air or whatever, right? Not a pizza party, but actually they get to go to Get Air and that'll be done through PTO. So all legit. So February 2nd, we will have Lunar New Year performances and booths outside and a dragon dance. And we're gonna line up all of the money trees or red envelope trees from the classes outside. So the parents get to visualize it and see it. And then for the next year, the whole year, we'll be marching toward this $1 million. And it's going to be mainly to continue our STEAM, music, PE, and teacher's aid programs. We raised that $1 million. We're out of the deficit much sooner than the end of next school year. Although it's projected to be out of the deficit at the end of next school year, we're going to move that timeline up much quicker, right? The more we raise. So wanted to give you an update on that. And then at the gala, so it all connects. At the gala, we'll give an update. We'll show the actual wall and the plaques up there. Right now, they're designing it, and we'll be able to share the design hopefully by February 2nd. But at the gala, we'll actually be able to show. So
that'll going well with the focus on fundraising.
Correct.
That's the purpose, right?
Correct.
Like I said, last year we kind of had celebration, more of a celebration.
There was still a fundraising component, but now I want to focus more on the fundraising.
Correct.
You said the PTO is
The
taking more-
PTO is taking the bulk of the effort.
Yeah.
You know, the way, I don't know if you've been involved there, but the way they handle, they attack each celebration with one at the same time, right? You know, and this one here, February
February
2nd,
2nd.
is kind of the one that's
Focus.
focusing on right now. But as they pass that bridge, once they pass that event, they start gearing up to the next one. So it's my task, along with Stacy, I think it's Stacy, we're working on finding the venue, and once we have that sealed, you know, they cut the listing down, it's supposed to be. But it's not really community, it's the whole, the whole. Last year, we kind of had more community, staff in the school. This year, you know, mostly.
That's true. PTO does a great job. Very much. Okay, moving on to the next item. The board will consider and approve the school accountability report card for 2022-2023. It was provided in our Google folder, so we can review it. Dr. Bain, did you want to comment?
Yeah, just quickly, the purpose of the school accountability report card is so that all local education agencies give to the public a report card on how the school is doing, or how the district's doing. This last year we did a PDF and uploaded a link to CDE. This year I actually used their dashboard. So it's all on the CDE dashboard, will not require a PDF. So I worked on that and uploaded it into the board document. And so this is the 30-something page SARC. Just the highlights of the SARC is really, it just covers our demographics, tells a little bit about the school. Then we get into, as you see, our mission and vision. As I scroll down there, we'll talk about enrollment. And this is just a snapshot enrollment of CBEDS Day for 2022-2023. So that first Wednesday of October of last year, we had 210 enrollment. The first October of this year, so next year's SARC, is going to show 372, right? So that's significant growth from CBEDS to CBEDS. Then we talk about student enrollment by demographics, which is interesting because we have 10% more females than males here at this school. That's pretty interesting. Last year we had 25% English learners. This year we have over 31%. Almost a third of our school are English learners. That's challenging for any school, right? Challenging to make sure that our English learners get the instruction that they need and the support they need. Then it talks about condition of learning in terms of our teachers being credentialed, appropriately credentialed. And then we scroll down, we talk about any missed assignments. And then we talk about our curriculum. And the main thing about curriculum is that do 100% of our students have access to Common Core Standard Aligned curriculum? And the answer should be yes for all of our students. Then we talk about facility. So we use the data from Orange County Department of Ed when they come in and they do our facility walkthrough. They use a FIT, which is the facility inspection tool. Understand that that's going to go away next year, so we have to do our own facility inspection tool, which will not be a problem. But obviously, since we're an IUSD school, everything was in good standing, and overall rating given by OCD was exemplary. Then we talk about pupil outcomes, and as you know, our pupil outcomes are very high: reading, math, and science. And for last year, and then this year, it's great. Next year's SARC is going to show growth, both in math and ELA, and it will show a decline in science. But again, science is going to actually, when we take the CAST this year, we're going to see significant improvement because we've, as you see here with the Science Fair project, we really focused on our science instruction this year. With the addition of Mr. Gibbons, our middle school science and math teacher. He's done an amazing job. And then the SARC goes on and asks other statistical information that we report here. And let me see what else is significant. And then it goes into some high school things, which is not applicable for us. And then other pupil outcomes, such as PE, and then it goes to parental involvement. So it's great that this year we were able to, it asks us, what are opportunities for parental involvement for this school year, 23-24? We were able to actually put an ELAC in here. It's amazing that our ELAC council is meeting, led by parents and teachers on this English Language Advisory Council. So that's in addition to just other ways for our parents to get involved. Let's see, as you know, so we have ELAC, monthly coffee with the principal, monthly parent workshops, parent volunteer programs. By the way, parent workshops are new this year that we didn't have in the past. Parent volunteer programs, that's very strong. Dr. Wesley saw that today. Lots, in almost every classroom, we had a parent volunteer, which is fantastic. Literacy and math nights is new. We had that this year for Mandarin. We have a strong PTO, a lot of family, on-campus family events like Mid-Autumn Festival, Winter Performance, Lunar New Year. We do a lot here at this school, which is actually kind of actually incredible that I think about it. And then, of course, we have student-led conferences. Then it talks about chronic absenteeism. All right, last year was high, although it was an improvement from the year before. We hope this year there will be an improvement. But I just read a study that it's actually still an issue for schools, school districts. It's still an issue. It's going to be an issue because of the pandemic and getting out of that. But I will tell you our reasons for chronic absenteeism is many of our families do a lot of traveling to China. And you can't just spend 1 or 2 weeks there. You have to spend 3 or 4 weeks there visiting family. And so we put students on independent study, which helps with that. We have targeted in terms of our chronic absenteeism being mainly in first grade. Our upper grades, our kids are here. This is the only data that will prevent us from being California Distinguished School. We have everything else in place to be a California Distinguished School. But if we can't get chronic absenteeism controlled, that's going to prevent us from being a California Distinguished School. And I want to see us be that within a year or two, a distinguished school. We should be. There's no other reason why not. So talks about that.
You know, it's actually kind of sad that it's the chronic absenteeism that's holding us back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, that's the way I see it.
It's not the academics, instruction. No. Yep, chronic absenteeism.
Does that come up in your coffee with Dr. Reed? I mean, I know the parents
Yeah.
probably come to that or the active ones, so they're not the ones.
True, that's the irony of it all.
Is that a metric that our parent community
Yep.
is aware of, that we're tracking that? I know that you send out certificates for perfect attendance, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. They are aware of it. We've had 2 coffee principals where we actually talked about the importance of being here and how we are high in chronic absenteeism. And we show them actually the graph, and so they're aware of it. But again, not everybody attends coffee with the principal. So, but we do put it in the parent square messages as well. And we do celebrate students that are here, perfect attendance monthly. So that encourages students to be here.
Have we looked at other schools? I know it's unique in that international travel aspect, but other schools that are experienced, maybe even other.
I've talked to a lot of charters. They're all facing high chronic absenteeism, and I'm sure Maureen and OCD can share that with you. There is one school that does not have very high. That's Orange County Classical Academy. And if I look at their program, it's not really, well, there aren't that many English learners, and nor are there that many non-native English speakers. So a lot less travel. And that is a huge piece of our piece, right? And we have, we will have families go out for winter break and then not come back for a week or two and not tell us. And so we can't even put them on independent study because they haven't told, because they will not, they don't want to tell us that they're in China for 4 weeks. So those are issues. And we need to address that. And then the last piece of the SARC just what really is about a safety plan. And we have a great safety committee that meets regularly, actually. It looks like every other month here in their thing, 4 times throughout the year. And they have a great safety plan. And we have 2 safety drills a month. And that's more than enough, certainly. And then that's it. So that is the SARC, just needs to be approved before I push the submit button to the Department of Education, which is, this is due by the 1st of February. So I just need your approval.
Questions? Is Dr. Bean, is chronic absentee is purely associated with international travel or are there other reasons?
No, there are other reasons. For instance, there must, I'm not sure of the, if there's a cultural aspect, but many kindergartners, especially from our Chinese parents, will just come in an hour later than school starts. And they do this consistently, even after letters and conversations, because they think, well, kindergarten is not mandatory. I want to spend as much time as I can with my kindergartner. So we really have to develop incentives to keep them. I would not sure if it's a cultural thing, but when I was superintendent in LA, my demographics were highly Latino and African American, and we did not have as much problems with our kinder and first graders. They were there, and they came in on time. But many of our parents just seem to think, oh, it's okay, I'm going to bring my kid in every day at 9 o'clock for whatever reason. And that actually is considered true after 3 times, right? So that affects us. So yes, there are other factors other than just travel. And I'm trying to understand the culture, the Chinese culture in terms of the importance of being on time and whatnot for younger grades. Older grades are great. So second through 7th were great.
So knowing a little bit about China, I know that's not entirely a Chinese culture thing, because in China, they actually have a very strict guidelines. If you're late, sometimes, you've been caught it. And
Remember public education here, there's not really punitive. I can't kick them out of school for not being here because it's a public school. Certainly I can go through the SARB process, and we do have that process. But even then, if we turn it over to the district attorney, rarely will they follow up with that. And it's not a neglect issue where they would get involved. It's more just I want to spend more time with my kids. So to answer your question, the pattern has been TK, kindergarten, and a little bit of first. And that has really significantly impacted us. And then of course, travel. Travel is huge. For instance, we had a family who have 2 kids who left to go to Vietnam right after Thanksgiving. So they didn't even do it during winter break. They just did it between Thanksgiving break and winter break. And they went to Vietnam, and we didn't have these 2 kids for 2 weeks. And so those are the types of challenges that we face. And part of it is because our parents are more affluent, so they can have these trips,
Perhaps they should be made aware of the impact on school reputation and
well, they have been in 2 Coffee the Principles. I showed them actually how it impacts us fiscally. and how it impacts your California distinguished goals.
When you upload the SART, is there any type of feedback provided?
No, it's just
One way.
just one way up uploaded. Yeah. Yeah. Now our authorizers may give us some feedback on what they say for sure, but they do that continuously anyway. So.
Doug or Miller, any questions or comments regarding the
No,
SART?
I'm really very, very pleased with that report and ready to vote on it if necessary.
Okay, we'll certainly like to entertain a motion. Molly has motion, do a second, David has second. Right, going down the line, Molly.
Yes.
I'm an I, Brett is an I, David is an I.
Doug is aye.
Brett is aye. Doug?
Aye. Aye.
Miller? Miller, are you there?
Just a point of clarification. So Miller was absent in the beginning.
Yeah.
But we didn't roll call him back in, so I'm not sure if his votes really count.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll probably have to abstain.
Okay. All right, we're not getting a response. Anyway, so we'll abstain. Miller, thank you, Dr. Okay, so it passes. Moving forward, the next item, the board will consider and approve the 2022-2023 audit report. Any comments, questions on this? Hearing none, can I get a motion if there is one?
I'll move that we accept.
Felipe, first to motion, Chairman Doug, is that, I heard a motion there as well?
I'll
by
second.
Doug. Molly, Molly's an aye, Brett is an aye. David is an aye, Felipe is an aye, Doug?
Aye.
Aye, okay. And
Aye.
all right, thank you. Miller's an aye.
We can't.
But we're gonna abstain Miller because we missed you during roll call, Miller.
Sorry.
That's okay. So just so you know, that's why your vote is
Not
is
recorded.
abstained. Yep.
That's okay. I can fill it up in the future.
Okay, moving next, we are going to move to closed session and consider the approval of employee contracts, probably be 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, it should only take 5 to 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes. Okay, 5 to 10 minutes. We will-
Okay. Doug, I will be absent for that now. Okay.
下午等一会儿，你们先如果到超等的时候，
Yeah.
这边要
Okay.
Thank you, Miller.
We just go in.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we'll go in. That's usually where we go for the closed session. So we'll just go into the back.
Yeah, okay. All right, then welcome back, everyone. Thank you, while we stepped away to review employee contracts. David made the first motion, we second the motion, and it was unanimous. Moving on to the next closing items, we've got opening for board member comments, if anyone would like to provide any. You guys always look.
So if I was, I think we've had plenty of talk about science fair and all those things. You know, there's one thing that always sticks with me is the absenteeism. And then your analysis that it's mostly the grade, first grade and everything. You know, those are critical years in the school, you know, for them, not the school, but the student, because isn't that when they're like learning to read? Isn't that like focusing on the reading and the sounding of the words and stuff like that? I don't think these parents realize what they're doing, what they're allowing to happen to their kids there. If they're not, you know, participating in the school like they should be. There's critical, there's activities, I get that from my daughter. I get the work that I get to see the work that they do in the classroom and all stuff like that. They're missing that. you know, a week of that. You know, there's a lot that goes on. Not realize the damage. It really, especially those parents, you know, that's very disheartening, but I'm sure it's gonna be. Anyway, that's all.
Is there a way to, similar to what you have when you get on competition classes, but is there a way to incentivize the classrooms to be more active or conscious of going to class? I know as a kindergartner, you're not as tuned to be as competitive, but if it creates a culture of really wanting to be part of the class and enjoy some sort of, it's not small, I'm not talking big things, but you can actually see that everybody coming together. I think the certificate that we provide of perfect attendance is great, but a way to get everybody kind of working together, make sure you come tomorrow, I throw that out there.
That's no, I definitely, I did that at my schools at Aspire. We would put a calendar right outside the door of the classroom and stamp each time they get 100%. And then we would graph each classroom's attendance for that month and then award that. So we can definitely implement that. I don't know why I haven't actually, but now that you brought that up, we can do that.
But hopefully that'll transition to the parents because it's the parent that makes that decision.
Yeah, it's the students saying to the parents,
Yeah.
I need to be at school.
I want to be at school, but the parent ultimately, they've got this desire to travel or whatever their agenda is. It's unfortunate.
I know that's also a problem when I was teaching. I think for the younger kids, TK to kindergarten, I think the parents probably don't, if we invite them to come to the class, see how, not intense, but they were actually learning something, doing something. I think sometimes parents don't really know, kind of like a babysitting in a way.
They think that's just a babysitting.
Yeah, so we can kind of just invite them to just the first 10 minutes in the classroom, see how they do the calendar, they do a lot. I think once the parents see that, maybe they realize it. I know for my 6th graders, I don't waste time. So right on time, we get in the classroom immediately, there's no nonstop. And so my student knew that they can't waste time. So they actually tell the parents, we can't be late. Mrs. Chang start right at 10, right on the dot. And then we have problems over there. We talk about it in a small group. So that's easier we can train the older kids, let them know that, we don't waste time. But I think for the younger one, maybe we have to let the parents know.
That's a very smart idea. Mary Beth captures our notes, so I'll make sure we follow with Mr. Fernandez because he is the Director of Student Services and he's in charge of attendance. So we'll relay that message to him for sure. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Invite those parents.
So they can see the value that they're taking away, right?
Yeah.
This is what we do the first thing in the morning. When you come in.
If
and
you're an
there's a
hour late,
program
if you're an hour late, you're missing this, right? It's funny because I have Raymond and Rachel both there, and they are on top of me to get me to school on time, right? They're the ones who are pushing me. They're telling me, Daddy, I woke up early today because we go to school earlier, right? And that kind of thing. So I see that. That's what I see on my end, right? And then to think that the parent would just lackadaisical wander in an hour late, just repeatedly, I just don't get it. It's hard for me to digest that. But anyway.
Good. Can I just make a procedural point of clarification so the public knows that the board was allowed to talk about chronic absenteeism in your public comments or in your comments because we talked about it in the SARC. I just want to make sure the public understands it's not an item of topic that wasn't originally planned. It's discussed in a SARC and you're making public comments as a board around this thing.
We don't necessarily punish or penalize people, students, but we can give a reward for the students who are so that way you can see there's a reward, for being punctual. Because I think, it's a very good to develop a good habit, from early on. Doesn't matter, you are kindergarten, first grade. So they know that being punctual, being on time should be rewarded. It's a good thing. I think we can do that, try that. All right.
I think that the reward comes in the education. That's what I think. I know that's a long term though. I mean, that's years later, right? Years later, the education, that's where it pays off, right? Not immediate, right? And it's the same thing. The opposite is reverse. If you don't bring your kid to class on time and have them be here, you take off for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever, what you're affecting is their long-term education, because they're going to be behind.
Can I also make some general comment about the board meeting? And I think today I'm especially excited to see the scientific presentation. It was a pleasant surprise to me. All right, I love that special session. I think we should have this more often. Yeah, and I'm encouraged to see the kids are doing a fantastic job, especially I'm sure there are a lot of more, but the Wayne kids, they actually deserve that. I want to congratulate the kids and also the teacher who are leading the charge. Several teachers, whomever their names might be. It's great to see that. And in terms of board meeting, I would also like to make a suggestion because of the January board meeting. Okay? Typically, as for company, January we do have like a planning session. Planning session even in the board meeting, the very first board meeting, there's always something you talk about this year, right? And the end of the year is always some summary. At the beginning of the year, you talk about a plan a little bit. I mean, we don't necessarily sit here, okay, have a laundry list of what are we going to do, but generally, maybe in the executive director's report, you can talk about a little bit about the vision, right? You have your vision when you started last year, how we measure in terms of achieving the goals we set previously in the previous year. I think we should cover it a little bit. That would be my suggestion. And so give the board members or maybe the general public a kind of a glimpse into what we have achieved so far and in last year, and what are we planning to do, where we go for the coming year. That will be your vision, right? And to share that vision would be good, would be better. That will be my suggestion. Another suggestion is sometimes the board members give suggestions, advice. Maybe sometimes in the ensuring board meetings there will be kind of like a review, come back and hey, what are we last time we talked about? Brad proposed certain things, and there will be a follow-up. Will be a follow-up, regardless, right? Otherwise, sometimes we talk about it, we have made some suggestions, and we'll forget. The board members may forget. Then maybe I'm not saying Dr. Bean, you forget something, but we should have a follow-up, right? I see certain things sometimes advice I made and suggestion I made to other board members, and I gotta follow through. That's great. But if we make some suggestions, and in the next board meeting, maybe we can have we cover it, some of the topics we covered. For example, today we talk about leadership. We talk about leadership, right? And next time, I'm sure the board meeting will hear a plan. Things like that nature, we should have that put on the board agenda. Okay, that's another suggestion.
Right. First I want to say, this year in particular, the school year in particular, it's been jam-packed with all these activities like the science fair, the spelling bee, or the basketball tournament, or the teams you guys got going on, the piano, and all of these things. I think it's just phenomenal. It's very exciting to see, on top of the dual immersion program and the Chinese New Year celebration and the Moon Festival, all these things. It's really phenomenal, a great place to be. My question is around the SARC. It's obviously a very key part of what it is that we do here, and its purpose is excellent in helping to keep us on track, and we know what the metrics are. My question is to you, Dr. Bean. Do you think that the SARC goes deep enough? You know, does it check the boxes that we are looking for? These are, to me, it's the minimum, right? And it's all the key items that we need to report on. But I pose that as a question because I myself don't know. But if there are areas that we are looking to measure ourselves above and beyond, is that in discussion? Is that in consideration? Do we feel like it's hard enough just to, just to score well on the SARC? Because it seems to me that having, it kind of leads us to where we're gonna go, right? And in a direction.
Yeah, so if I could just use the illustration of when a student gets a report card and goes home, it just shows the result of what the teacher has planned, or the school has planned for that year or for that classroom, right? And the parent just gets to see the results. So that's what the SARC is. It's just a report card for you to see the results of how the school performed last year. But really what you're asking is, and what David is asking as well, is what really do we use to guide our planning so that we can get to showing our results? Well, that's the LCAP. So you guys get the LCAP. And then actually in February, we're going to be doing mid-year checkup of the LCAP, which we'll present to the board. And that's, and then we have to submit to CDE. And so really as a board, you should really be honed in on the LCAP because it ties all the activities and all the goals and all the metrics together into a plan. And then we report the outcomes of the plan in the annual updates of the LCAP. So the SARC came out way before LCAP. Is this just a way for all districts to give a report card of how their district is doing? But if you really want to see true measure, I really like the newer system, and that's the LCAP around 2016. But even then, it's really developed throughout the years. So now it's more appropriate single plan with outcomes tied to finances, tied to results, and that's really what you should be looking at. The SARC, it's a good report. It really tells us statistically, or not statistically, but quantitatively and qualitatively how the school did the previous year. So, but really hone and tune into anytime we have reports on the LCAP. That's the most important piece. Yep.
Chairman Doug, any questions, comments?
Believe it or not, it's exciting to think that we could actually be setting our sights on becoming a distinguished school, and it's not very far away. It's just simply attendance. Isn't that amazing? That for all practical purposes, we're becoming a distinguished school. If we had a few students that were doing independent study instead of absent, we'd be right there, and that's amazing. And so I'm very, very, very pleased with that. But, yeah, wish I could have been with you all in person today. It was a little clunky electronically, but thanks for the grace to be part remotely.
Thank you for joining. Okay, any other items? Seeing none, moving forward to the future board business and dates. We've got our dates listed there. Any complications?
Mary Beth will be coordinating with us. We appreciate all that she does. Thank you very much for that. Okay, last item, adjourn the meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I make a motion. to adjourn.
Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, David. Seconds. Molly?
Yes.
I'm an aye. Aye. David's an aye.
And I am as well.
Felipe and Doug are ayes, so unanimous. All right. Well, thank you all very much for joining. We very much appreciate you participating in the first board meeting of 2024.
Thank
Have a
you,
great
Brett,
evening,
for
everyone.
leading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Doug.
Bye, Mary Beth.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.